Hello everyone and welcome to another Taskmaster Transmissions Live. I'm Will Schick, Director of Product Development, and today I'm actually flying solo for the first time in a month. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. However, if you've been following us over the month of May, we've been doing a roster challenge, myself and Dallas, where we picked 5 characters from Marvel Crisis Protocol. We painted those up, then we asked you, the community, especially in chat during our weekly streams, to help us pick 4 more characters. This brought us to a total of 9 characters in our roster, and of course the last 10th character was a super secret pick. That's why I'm by myself today. Dallas is not here because I'm going to be painting with you all my 10th pick for the roster challenge. We're going to be playing our game next Tuesday. It was going to be this Thursday. However, we have a couple other things going on in the video studio at the office, and so we needed to postpone. So next Tuesday, 1 p.m. Pacific, you're going to be able to see Dallas and myself take these 10 character rosters, put them on the table, and face off against each other to see who exactly is going to come out on top after our month of serious hobby work. Spoiler alert, my 10th pick is Iron Fist. Now, I'll talk a bit more about why I made that pick and what motivated me to do it as we hop off this camera and get on to the star of our show, which is our Iron Fist. So let's do that now, shall we? So here it is. Astute observers and longtime viewers might recognize this Iron Fist. It is the exact same Iron Fist that I painted or started painting on one of our previous streams. So I did a whole thing during that stream while Dallas was painting Luke Cage about how I approached painting the dragon, energy effect, the Iron Fist energy itself. So if you want to know how I got to this point, you can go back, you can take a look at that and watch it. But otherwise, after that stream, I kind of put him on the shelf, and then I never got back around to it because I already painted a normal Iron Fist for my regular roster. I was going to do him as an immortal Iron Fist. I didn't quite get that far. And while I was trying to pick my 10th character, it would be really cool to add to the Revengers of the Galaxy, which is the pet name of my team that I've put together here over the course of the month of May, would be this Iron Fist. And I thought he'd look really cool in the Guardians of the Galaxy inspired uniform colors, so I can change the pants to blue, have the boots be red, get the red head wrapping and all that stuff, and just get him knocked up. You'll see that I actually already based him, so this gives you kind of a preview into the basing effects that I did for the entire squad. I got a little cheeky with this guy, hopefully you can see it. I really wanted to make it look like the ground around him was bursting out from the energy of the Xiao punch that he's doing here, this big Iron Fist punch. So I kind of molded the earth effects to have this little concentric ring. I think it turned out pretty neat. And then of course I chose my color scheme for my alien planet because we're not on Earth anymore, using magenta ink and cyan ink, and then I did a dry brush of a very light neutral gray over the top. I think it turned out really cool. It definitely has a lot of vibrance to it. It definitely feels very alien. So that's where we're at. The entire squad and roster has been based and is all ready to go. You're going to see all of them together. But otherwise, let's get on and finish up this Iron Fist. So let's take him to the next level, as it were. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the pant colors. We're going to go from the white into the blue. Somewhat pains me, but I'm just going to grab my Scale 75 navy color that I've been using, my navy blue. This has been used throughout all of the roster to make everything feel really nice and cohesive. I'm going to highlight that up with a bit of Arctic blue in progressive stages. We'll do the reds with our, what's that color called? Murderous something. Not murderous, I always get it wrong. Hastur purple. It's kind of our deep sanguine color that we've been using for the reds. We'll finish up his skin tones, and this Iron Fist will basically be ready to get into the action next Tuesday. So Dallas, of course, will be back on Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific, and he is going to be picking up his super secret 10th character, and we took a little gentleman's agreement vow that neither of us would watch each other's streams to keep the secret alive. So we won't know exactly what we're facing off against as the 10th pick. But overall, the entire challenge was really fun. Alice and I had a blast kind of developing a narrative, both around our very randomly chosen rosters. Because, of course, I chose my initial 5, had no kind of thoughts about how everything would work together. I just picked characters that I liked. characters that I really wanted to paint again because I enjoyed painting them so much the first time. And then, of course, characters that I really like to play on the table. Specifically, didn't pick an affiliation, so, that was wise. And from there, my first two from the community were Punisher and Rocket Raccoon. So that went along with my initial 5, which was Medusa, Venom, Enchantress. What else did we have in there in the first 5? We had Enchantress, Venom, Medusa. I can't even remember now. It's been so long, and I don't have them in front of me. They're at the office to get photographed and stuff. Hold on, I can do this. I can figure it out, I tells you. Gamora was another one who was in that initial batch. And then who was the last one? The last one was Taskmaster. Ah, yes, Taskmaster. So I just picked characters that I really like, that I thought would be really fun to paint. I got Rocket Raccoon and Punisher, and for some reason in my head, after getting Rocket Raccoon and Gamora, I was like, okay, maybe the storyline here is that, these characters, Earth gets destroyed, some cataclysm, the Spartax or the Shi'ar, the Kree, and the Skrulls. But Earth gets destroyed, most of the heroes are lost. The remaining heroes kind of get picked up and taken off planet by Gamora and Rocket. They decide that they're going to form this brand new team, and they're going to get revenge. Basically, they're going to avenge the loss of the world. They're going to do some good around the galaxy, but they're kind of motivated by more morally gray aims. So I, of course, took that idea. I ran with it. I picked a unified color scheme, which we're painting here on this Iron Fist, from the classic Guardians of the Galaxy kind of costume, where they have this really deep navy blue, these really kind of rich crimson red highlights, or accent pieces like the boots and the gloves and stuff like that. And from there, it was just converting and doing some fun stuff with the Punisher and several of the other characters to kind of make them fit the theme and make them unique, really let them stand out and become kind of this cool hobby-centric story. And as I worked on that, and Dallas and I, throughout the process, we got to paint together and chat about our choices and what we were doing, what we were thinking. This kind of fun narrative emerged where I feel like in my heart of hearts, Frank Castle has kind of become the de facto leader of the squad. Not only because he stole all of Star Wars clothes, but because if you need somebody to kind of lead your punishment squad, your Avengers of the Galaxy, Frank Castle, he comes with a pretty rich resume for that. I don't think Frank loves being the leader. It's not what he wants to do with his life, but he's kind of accepted it at this point. And so he kind of begrudgingly takes the helm and leads these characters around as they do stuff. Now, as the story progressed, we had some interesting surprise characters show up, not the least of which was Thanos, who got voted into the team by the community in one of the chats. And so I thought that was pretty cool. So what I did with Thanos is I took the Infinity Gauntlet and I drilled out all of the Infinity Gems. So he has an empty Infinity Gauntlet. Obviously, this Thanos has not achieved all the gems. But Thanos always wants to get those gems. So he's got the gauntlet just in case. And then I did a big hobby project where I kind of worked on sculpting him a cloak. I took a lot of inspiration from the Thanos from the Infinity Gauntlet run, from the Secret Wars event, or the Battle World event, depending on how you like to call it. I still think it's termed Secret Wars, but it was all about Battle World, where this Thanos he's part of this post-apocalyptic kind of setting, and so he's got the cool post-apocalyptic cloak, and he's got the empty Infinity Gauntlet, all this stuff. I thought that was really cool, and it fit the narrative really well of what's going on. So I imagined that Thanos came in, and he was like, I didn't want this. This is really bad. He sees a chance to kind of go out and stick it to a lot of the galactic empires that have foiled him in the past. So he's joined up with the team, and he's ready to go. And then we got another curveball in that Ebony Maw was also chosen for the squad. So I have an Ebony Maw. This one for me is kind of... I think Ebony Maw, from a creative perspective, is there to always like cast everything in doubt. Because I can believe, as a longtime comic reader, that Thanos is like genuine in his desire to team up and achieve some end, some notorious aim. But Ebony Maw to me is like, no one should trust that guy. Zero question. No one should be willing to trust Ebony Maw. So why is he there? Is he genuine? I highly doubt it. He has his own end. Are him and Thanos in on it? Is Thanos being played? Which, a lot of people are like, Thanos would never get played. But he gets played. Thanos totally gets played every once in a while by Ebony Maw, especially in the comics. So who knows, right? But he's there. And he's hanging out looking sinister, but he's wearing the same duds. He's got the team uniform on. They're all playing the game. And so we wound up in a situation where I don't have an affiliation at all, so I'm playing pure affiliationless. I don't even think there's a way for me to do... Well, I guess I could, depending on the crisis threat level. I suppose it is possible that I could do Thanos, Maw, and someone, and have a 3-person Black Order affiliated squad, but I think that wouldn't be very good, especially given that there'd be no gems. I'm not planning on taking any of the cards for Black Order, so I think that's highly ill-advisable, but I guess I could do it, so I should account for it. But otherwise, I don't have any affiliation. My plan for tactic cards is to very much go heavy on character-specific cards, so certainly planning on Lethal Protector for Venom. I'm definitely probably thinking Heroes for Hire for Iron Fist. Going back to some of those classic core box ones that just kind of work all around. Trip Up is a pretty good one. Disarm, I think, is another good potential. Knowing what Dallas has in his list, I don't know if Brace really needs to be in there. Maybe get some of the healing stuff, like a patch up or a med kit. But overall, we're gonna be playing no affiliation, no leadership. We're gonna rely on the strength of our cool cast of motley characters and maybe some clever affiliation, or some clever tactic card choices. And then it's just going to be all on the table. Now, Dallas, on the other hand, he has like all the leaders. He wound up with She-Hulk and Doctor Strange. I don't know who's picking for his secret one, but it wouldn't surprise me if he picked another leader for that. So Dallas really has Taskmaster is the rogue agent. Definitely opens me up. I forgot about the rogue agent potential. I think that also opens me up to play Guardians without the leadership. So I could take a bunch of Guardians tactic cards, which kind of sounds appealing a little bit, honestly, like get Crew of the Milano in there and stuff. But again, not very many people are going to be able to, like only Gamora and Rocket are going to be able to actually utilize those cards, so they're probably not great. I was really tempted to take Groot, I'll be honest. For a long time I was like, I'll take Groot. And that way I can take Deadly Duo, because Rocket and Groot with Deadly Duo is just phenomenal. But I decided not to, because I really thought, like, as far as the narrative and the story of the squad and everything else, I liked the idea that Groot had been lost. Rocket is now on his own, as he has been a couple of times in the comics as well. But he's lost kind of his true buddy, and it's made Rocket a little more vicious, a little more mean-spirited. He doesn't quite have the Groot to check him, and that's where we've wound up. So this is the thing. This is where we're at. But yeah, mostly going for tactic cards that are definitely character specific, playing into the squad strengths as much as possible. I mean, I've got really good movement overall. I feel like I've got a very mobile squad. And then of course I have a pretty heavy hitting squad if I want, so I can build a couple of different ways. I'm very excited about that. I'm not sure, depending on what Dallas decides to bring. He certainly has more of the muscle between She-Hulk and he could come at me with a three character like Super Squad, She-Hulk, Doctor Strange, and something. And I could definitely feel it. I can run pretty decent numbers. I think I can get to a five character squad really easy with my picks. I could go a little higher. So I think we're just gonna have to play smart, and that's part of the tactical challenge I like out of the squad that we have. Is not only do we have a really cool story, but I think it's going to be really, really fun tactically to get the most out of it and kind of come out on top. So, all right, so we've got the blues and the reds kind of laid out base coat wise. I'm going to grab some blue ink. Just really quick, make up a wash for this blue. Knock that out. And of course, after our game next week, we're going to be diving into all of the cool, amazing Spider-Man releases on stream. So we're going to be painting, I think Dallas has got Black Cat on tap first. I have Lizard. We, of course, have a Craven. So we're going to be spending some time with those amazing characters, talking about their design, the development, all that good stuff. Hopefully we will get maybe a game stream in, utilizing the new Spider Friends and Spider Foes, aka Web Warriors and Spider Foes, affiliations with their new options. Get that amazing Spider-Man on the table, square him off against some Green Goblin, Lead, Craven, Mysterio, Lizard goodness. I saw the Lizard panel to play went up today, so people have been enjoying dissecting that, figuring out what all the Lizard does. He was, from the very start, I always had in mind that the Lizard was going to be the super absorbent damage sponge who is just going to be a tank, In all the comics, the Lizard has regenerative powers and all that stuff, But he's often been very just indomitable to Spider-Man. You punch his big old thick lizard hide, he doesn't feel it. You punch it again, all that good stuff. So it's definitely the vibe that we were going for with that character, and also I think that adds a really good layer to what the Spider Foes want, which is this character that can just sit on a point, advance on a point, take a whole bunch of punishment, and just keep on doing his thing. And it pairs well, with Craven, who's got the mobility and kind of the striking force. You've got Green Goblin with his not only the leadership, but of course his very radically different playstyles depending on if he's healthy or injured. Mysterio, who's more of a backfielder and can hang out and cause disruption and all that stuff. So, and then of course Carnage and Venom, who are certainly damage dealers. They're very into getting in your grill and just beating the snot out of whoever's in their way. And so you kind of mix all those together and you get some really interesting options and pairings, and I think they do a lot to support each other. And then of course that's before you even start adding in all of the different options that you have from non-affiliated selections. You can take Kingpin too, who I think even outside of the criminal syndicate leadership adds a lot of interesting options to the squad and the team and the affiliation. So it's exciting. I'm very excited to see Spider Foes getting on the table, having people get their first real taste of a more full version of that affiliation. Like we've talked about before, a lot of the times when working on these products and stuff and in game development, you do things that sometimes aren't going to pay off for a while. You lay those seeds. We wanted to get Green Goblin out early. We wanted to kind of get people excited for the future of the game and build towards something that was going to come. And that, of course, was very much looking at the Spider Foes affiliation and stuff. And yeah, so we've reached that point now where that faction is going to blossom and start to bear a lot more fruit, I think. And it's going to be fun to watch players unlock the different potentials and see people who have been kind of working with the Spider Foes affiliation and its limited offerings. Get their hands on a bunch of new tactic cards, a bunch of new characters, and really see what they can bring to the table. That is fairly unique from what the other affiliations offer. And that's another big thing with affiliations is we're always trying to do our best to make them feel different and to bring different questions and answers to the table so that you can utilize their abilities to unlock different combinations and strategies and maybe shake up the meta from time to time in your area based on who you pick. And then the roster system and the dynamic list building lets you mix and match different affiliations or take different approaches that can really mess with your opponent, give you those tools to create smart strategies from the front end. And it's one of those big fundamental pillars of Crisis Protocol game experience is how you approach roster construction and the options and opportunities it really gives you when it comes down to that. Oh! Well, drop off is just one of those learning experiences for sure. I know Green Goblin had a lot of play and place as one of the few size 3 flyers that wasn't an Ultron, and I think obviously he was tested against that, and it did give him a somewhat unique role, but I also think it kind of pigeonholed him a bit more than we wanted into like this one-trick pony, and I think that character has a lot more to offer now. There are going to be some new Spider Foes and some new specific tactic cards that will provide some new options. Nothing's going to replace drop off though, per se, if that's what you're looking for. So nothing yet. Who knows what the future may hold? Obviously, when it comes down to being able to better control the variables, which was the big problem with drop-off, as we've talked about before. It just allowed for far too much, that it became very limiting for design, especially in the future when you don't know what's coming. We just learned a lot. You don't want to have the variable of how big is the moving character's base size, how big is the character being dropped off base size, how big is the range on the character's different basic attacks, what's the speed of each of these characters, what other tactic cards can you bring to play, how much power does each character get to generate. It's just too much. Too many variables makes for too dangerous or too abusable, too many unforeseen circumstances. And like we talk about, it's really important that your favorite character be viable and usable and all that stuff, and we want to create a great game environment where everybody feels encouraged to play the way they want to play and not be shoehorned into having to deal with very specific combinations, especially when the only way to deal with those combinations is with other combinations, all that stuff. We want the characters to really shine. So, you don't want Cable to only be amazing when somebody takes drop off and then only be mediocre when there's no drop off, right? That's not doing right by the characters. It doesn't matter which character it is. Now sometimes you do make tactic cards that obviously become a very important part of the character's kit and identity. Gamma launch for Hulk is one. Obviously I mentioned Lethal Protector, which I will be taking alongside my Venom, is another one. And those cards, they do great things for the character if you're taking them. But again, the hope is that we've created the characters so that they're only additions to the character's power set. They're not the only way to play a character. Now, obviously, I most definitely have used Venom to good effect in other teams and constructions especially in Web Warriors, where he may not need the mobility as much in order to get to the beatings that he wants to deliver so well. But in teams without a lot of manipulation and board control options, Lethal Protector allows him to utilize his unique set of skills very well. And it really, I think, plays well to the character and his more hero side for sure. But there's nothing that says that he can't be protecting his spider foe friends as well, you know. He just wants to get in there and get himself a good snack. He's ready to go. Flails wildly. Yes. It's my goal. Is to make Pagani feel really uncomfortable at these streams. What will he talk about next? Who knows? All these things we've discussed many times before. Both on some of the podcasts that we've been on and also just at panels and development discussions that we have through Mini Stravaganza, which there'll be another one of those coming up really soon. Probably the late summer, very early fall. I don't think we have final confirmation on our exact dates yet, but it will be happening. Mini Stravaganza 2 before too long. I'm sure we'll have some more great panels and discussions. We get to show off a bunch of new stuff that's coming out, all the exciting things. Dive a bit more into all the games, including Marvel Crisis Protocol. So much excitement. All I'm doing for the skin here, if anybody's curious, is I'm just building up effectively layers of the exact same skin tone. So I'm using a little mixture of Ishtar Pink and Basic Flesh, which I've thinned out a fair amount with water, and I'm using those translucencies kind of like glazes. And so I'm just kind of glazing the same areas over and over, and I'm using the transparency of the paint because the more layers that you add, obviously, the more opaque the paint becomes. And this can help really create some really nice, smooth, natural looking definitions on skin tones. And because the paint is like really thin, it takes a little bit of time to build up those highlights and stuff, but I find that it's really controllable. You obviously have a lot of control because if you just don't want an area to get any lighter, you stop building up the layers. You can minimize or reduce the amount of coverage that you do per area if you want to start doing like edge highlighting and stuff, and that's really simple to control. And then of course if you have your secondary blending brush, you can also get in there and do a little two brush blending as well. Just amp up those colors and help those transitions look really nice. But this kind of glaze technique doesn't require you to do a lot of mixing and still gets really nice results. And then you can go back through and you can do a little bit of pin washing on areas that you want to have more shadow or more intensity to them. All that good stuff. Maybe we'll add a little OSL effect to where that fist is, where the dragon is. I don't know. We'll see. But it's just a slow, methodical kind of process. And then once you're happy with that, if you want to add in another highlight layer, like I might go in and add a little more white to this mix, just to give where is white? Oh. Just to highlight it up a little bit further and give ourselves some extreme highlights. Extreme! Old school Mountain Dew style, I guess? I don't know. But this stage, be less about those translucencies, more just about those little zings of light, highlight, playing with that color. Just messing around. Just messing around. You do gotta squash those spiders. Those darnable spiders. They're the worst. We had a lot of fun working on some of those tactic cards as well. Lizard gets a couple of really fun ones. I don't even know if we've talked about or shown off the Mysterio one yet, but Mysterio has a very defining, to me, a very character-defining tactic card. The Craven has some amazing cards as well. One of which absolutely is the most silly and most fun tactic card I think we've ever made. To this day, it still makes Pagani facepalm, but it's amazing. And if you are a big Spider-Man fan, it's going to really speak to one of the best Spider-Man storylines of all time. Definitely one of the weirder ones. A really great and defining moment for Craven as a character and a villain and all that other stuff too. So I made a little bit of a mistake on his super cut. What are those? His abdominals, his obliques, I guess. We'll fix that here in a second. Quick spot highlights just to make those muscles really pop. Craven's Last Hunt is it's definitely how it's best known, although as the card is titled Fearful Symmetry, which was the actual name of the story arc. Thank you, Josh Cologne, for making sure that we didn't look new. We had to know. I would have been fine had it been called Craven's Last Hunt, but Josh was like, well, actually, people, this was the name of the thing. Okay. Dallas did a really cool flaming dragon on the chest. Do I feel like we can do something like that here? Debatable. I find it debatable. Oh, I do want to do, I think I'm going to do the eyes, instead of black, I'm going to do the eyes blue. So let's do that. Let's see if we can fix some light here a little bit. Alright. So come up. I'm gonna get really quiet now because I got to do this small eyeball detail. Side. Knock that through. Kind of reminds me of a luchador right now with these colors. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Maybe he does some galactic gladiatorial fights to get money for the crew now, like Drax used to do. He kind of took over as the pit fighter for these characters. There we go. I think we move on to the pant highlights. Quick. sweet. Think about what to do for that chest tattoo, if we just want to do it black or we want to get a little crazy. Let's see how much time we have left. Ooh, I gotta go get my Arctic blue. Alright, get that Arctic blue out. Do these highlights on the pants. There we go. And we're just going to do some really like traditional layer highlight / a little bit of two brush blending. So I'm just looking for places where you can see those highlights happening. It's like the knee kind of across this thigh here. Too high. That's okay though. I'm just going to drag that paint along. Smooth out the blends. I'm going to keep it pretty dark. So one of the tricks to this overall blue scheme for these Guardians, as I've learned, is really controlling the highlighting step and not going too overboard with it. And when I do, just going back through with a little bit of blue ink or the initial kind of base color and deepening it back up. And then really using the kind of the same effects that Dallas has shown off on painting like pure black and stuff, where you just kind of go back through and you look for ways to add like little fabric stretches or scritches, as we call them a lot on the streams. Those little like zings of highlight, and those, especially for dark colors, really do the trick of making the color feel really rich and deep, but also not flat. And it's a very minor kind of step. It doesn't take many of them either. Like you can make really good kind of progress and effects without a lot of them. They're a great way to work on brush control too. So, one of the things that I've really liked doing as well is kind of more feathering approaches, where especially on things that aren't quite like these pants, but Medusa's suit and other big broad areas of fabric, is just kind of like come in and do a little bit of like feathering, kind of like this, where I don't try to be super even with the paint application, and I just let it feather out into the edges to give that kind of texture of cloth. It's just adding a lot of like texture feel to the mini. I find that it works. It's worked really nice with these darker colors, especially. It's just kind of like going back and forth, and again adding in a little bit of life, a little bit of textures. Lighten this up some more. It's a really warm day today. Oh my gosh, my paint's drying out like crazy. Need that wet palette today. We were all sweltering today as we were checking some cam in the office, which is where we review prints, prototypes of the sculpts that are coming. So we obviously do that all together. Toss myself, Marco, and some of the engineers who are local, and we were trying to crank up that AC as much as possible in the office because it's warm today. Summer has arrived here in the Seattle area. It's ridiculous. I hope everybody had wonderful weather as well. Alright. Now we're going to do that. So for this little like extreme highlight, we're just going to come in and hopefully you can kind of see on that knee and like right here. I'm just going to like where I think the highest point of the light would zing, and then I'm just kind of like scritching in kind of a line of highlight. And up close, like if you got really close to the mini, you'd be able to see that there are all these individual lines that it would look pretty messy, but from the distance that you'll see it on the tabletop, those fine lines, that feathering approach kind of blends together, and so you can't see the individual lines as much, but you still get that hint of texture. And I think it turns out really nice, especially like I said on dark fabrics and stuff. Things like this blue here, which we want to be fairly deep and rich. And of course things that want a decent amount of texture as well. So anything fabric related, stuff like that, kind of utilize this approach, and it's kind of a faster cheat. I don't want to use the term cheat, it's a faster technique. And I've used it over all of the characters that I've done so far for this roster challenge. And it's also kind of a nice another element to tie everything together stylistically and make it feel very cohesive and team oriented. Just a little bit too strong there on that calf, top of the calf muscles. So just kind of blend that back down. There we go. Blend that back in. Alright, pretty happy with where that blue is. I think we'll call that good. We'll move on to the reds. So for this, I'm just going to use the Hastuber purple, and then I'm going to use some ball crimson. And I'm just going to mix those together into my highlight. You could also probably use Ishtar pink for this a little bit, just to bring up the colors as well. And I might do that just to get a little bit of exceptional highlight. But again, because these are really deep, rich colors, and I want to keep them rather dark, the highlighting step is pretty minimal. We're not going crazy on this step. This also helps lend to the fact that you want to paint it quickly and you want to get through it pretty fast. Because we did paint an entire roster over the month of May, and that's no joke. Ambitious, However, Super Blast, and it actually turned out to be very achievable, I felt. Between the 2 hours of streaming that we had, where you could mostly finish, I would say about 3/4 of a character within the hour, and then I would just wake up, and I like to do an hour-ish of hobby before I get my day started. I find that early morning hobbying is kind of the best time for me because everyone's still in bed or doing their morning wake-up routine, and I'm the first person up in my house, so I get up and get going around 6, and then I have from 6 until work starts to get movement on my hobby stuff, on my projects. And that worked out really well. Like I said, we were able to pull together this awesome 10-man squad. We also did some other hobbying over the month. We had a Gathering Forces challenge that we were doing on Wednesdays and Fridays. I was able to complete that as well without a lot of undue stress and strain, which was fantastic. I even got some other stuff painted just for my own standard collection. So I have some catching up to do, I'll be honest. Got some characters that I haven't painted yet that I really wanted to, but they got put kind of on hold a little bit for completing the roster challenge. So I'm excited to get a Black Cat painted. Like I said, Dallas will be painting Black Cat starting next week as we kick off all the Spider-Man stuff. So that's going to be really fun. But I did not get my Black Cat started or done yet, so I'm going to get started on that here soon. And then I'm going to get to paint Lizard on stream. I'm excited about that. Dallas already did a phenomenal Lizard over the course of Mini Stravaganza. I did get a Amazing Spider-Man painted. We did that over Mini Stravaganza. I think we might get a chance to do another one, so that's pretty exciting. We of course have Craven. I've already painted my Craven. That was one of the few hobby projects that I was able to get done over May, along with everything else. I got to paint a Mysterio not too long ago. I'm excited to do another Mysterio. I almost picked him for my secret 10th pick, because I thought that would be pretty exciting. So much good stuff. All these projects in so little time. That's really the problem. And man, we got so many cool things coming out. I'm looking forward to getting Jean Grey, Omega Red painted up. Omega Red is just sick. Cassandra Nova, one of my favorites. Especially as far as like semi-deep cut, I guess. Although if you read X-Men Red, you'll find you probably are like me and you're like, oh, that's not a deep cut at all. That's some serious business right there. I thought her story with Jean in that run was just incredible and so fun. Made her a great pairing to get us a really cool villain. You know, a lot of villains in Marvel are kind of like, I'm evil, but you know, you can kind of see where I'm coming from. Cassandra Nova is just one of those who's just like, she's just mean. Super evil. So all right. And it's not very often that we get to like make really down and dirty and evil characters. And so when the opportunity presents itself, it's always very fun to kind of take that dive. I forgot to highlight our mask, so I'm going to do that really quick. And then I think we got to figure out the tattoo. So maybe we'll just borrow Dallas's idea. Maybe. And we'll just go for the fiery tattoo on the torso or something. Be a little more liberal with this mask highlights because they're so small. I want those to really stand out. Doop. Yeah, I thought the purple green kind of like evil dragon magic feel would be pretty neat. it was a fun way to experiment with fluoros too, and kind of show how purple is such an amazing shade for green. And that's something that obviously I only learned by watching other fantastic painters kind of explain color theory to me organically by saying, well, you know, if you take this color and you do this with it, it looks really cool. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're right. I must share this info, you know? I always like when you learn something and it's so cool you just feel the need to get out there and spread the word, you know? Like immediately tell the rest of the world what you discovered. To me, that's such a exciting time. I want to be part of sharing info and discovery and all that stuff, and I think that's part of what makes the hobby so cool, as we obviously get to do that, and I'm fortunate enough to get to sit here and hang out and talk about random stuff while we paint together and all that good stuff. So yeah, when we're doing him, I thought it would be kind of a fun change of pace to do that. Got a little bit of a Nighthawk vibe going on now with that blue mask, I feel like. But I'm all into it. Okay. So, do the wrappings really quick. I'm just going to grab a khaki, maybe? No, I'm not going to grab a khaki. You know what? We'll utilize this bone color here. This Nakar. We'll do the wrappings on his fists really quick. I'll keep these more neutral. I don't want them to be red. I feel like that's going to be too much red. I made that mistake on Enchantress with her stockings. I had this whole plan. Then I started to implement the plan and I was like, oh, I don't like this at all. So I kind of I had to walk it back a couple of times and figure out what I wanted to do with the colors, and I would prefer not to have to do that again. So here we go. We'll stop it, brush. These. Oh, let's go back through and get those colors added back. But to finish these off, we'll just do a really quick sepia tone shade on them, and that'll be fine, and they'll be done. I'll let those dry for a little bit. Okay, how long do we got? We got 7 minutes. Woo! If we did a black tattoo, it would go quick. Who says we want to go quick? All right, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna grab a little bit of this orange. I'm gonna very quickly knock in the orange for the dragon. We're okay with spilling a little bit over the sides. So ideally that will just make it look like it's glowing more. I love it when sloppiness or imperfections can be used artistically to sell an effect. It's like the best. And I've seen, you know, some of the greatest miniatures painters that I've ever met. It's literally their plan. I'm like, what are you going to do? They're like, well, I'm going to use this wash and I'm going to put it on like this. And then it's going to, and I'm like, but isn't that going to be really messy and not very even? And they're like, yeah, but that's what I want. Because then I'll go back through and make the unevenness look like it was intentional. I'm like, my gosh. I wish I was as smart as you. But that's why you learn. You just go, you watch, You discover everything and you find out what's going on. Make the tattoo match the dragon. Oh my gosh, I already started. It's fine. We can fix it though. Watch. 5 minutes to go. We can do this. Alright, I need my purple now. Chat's killing me. I wasn't watching. Okay, here we go. This will probably work. Purple and orange, it's fine. Okay, so we're going to start, if we're going to do it like the dragon, we're going to start with purple. Because that's our base. And we're going to slap purple in there. And it's not going to be a perfect coverage, but that's okay. So we're just going to use that orange to our advantage now too. Get that down. Come over here. Get the head. And I'm going to grab some fluorescent purple. Boop, 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 boop. Oh, all right. So now we're going to need fluorescent purple and fluorescent green. And the way I did it on the dragon was very much through dry brushing. So we're not going to quite have that option here. So we're going to have to experiment a little bit with our fluoros and fluorescent colors. They definitely need a little bit of help in order to get that opacity that you want. And so for the green, I find that the Lilith yellow, which is right, where did it go? Yeah. So Lilith yellow works really well as a mix-in with the fluorescent green to keep the vibrancy, but also let it stick. So what we're going to do is we're just going to come in and we're going to tap in some of that fluorescent purple. On. And we have the purple in there. Now it's just going to be a question of building up that fluorescent green. And here's where I wish I had a hairdryer. So while that dries, we will go to our Sepia Wash. So just a little bit of sepia. Come in here and wash down these wrappings. Get them nice and dirty because he punches a lot of people with them. I'll probably go back through and I suppose the fingers would be showing, but it's easier to do it this way. So we'll address the fingers later. Get in there. Okay. So that gets going there. Steady hands, you know, I don't know if I have the steadiest of hands, but what I find is that you kind of just learn to work with your shakes. So you know, the biggest thing is like working on this dragon, for instance, instead of trying to paint the dragon with long strokes, I'm just tapping and I'm letting the paint kind of tap off the brush. And what that allows me to do effectively is to have a lot more control than I would if I was trying to draw a straight line, and I can work with what I got. So let's just start tapping in that fluorescent. And we're kind of doing a little bit of a natural wet blend because not all that purple is dry, but that's okay. We'll just play with it. So hopefully you can kind of see how I'm not really painting so much as I'm just tapping in that color, and I'm letting the paint and the brush do what they want to do. And of course, if we're trying to replicate what's on the dragon itself, we want a little bit of that purple to be showing underneath. So we're just going to kind of like work with the imperfections in the color. And then we'll play with it more as it dries and see where it goes. So knock that in. So we can kind of see how it's going to start to build up, and this will probably take 2 or 3 longer than we have here. The dragon itself, just to build up in those fluorescent colors, because they're so translucent, it took almost the entirety of the stream. I think I was working on it for 40 minutes of the hour-long stream before I really moved on to other things. But it's a super fun process, and it's very rewarding as you work it. But yeah, this kind of gives you an idea of how I'll approach it as I move on to finish it, which is just going to be knocking in these colors and building them up as we go. Create a nice fluorescent green, and then what I'll do is I'll go and grab a bit of white, like off-white, like Nicar or something, and I'll start to use that a little bit to build up some lighter colors, and then we'll just continue to work. And we'll build up that dragon to have a nice little green glow, mostly through the process that you're seeing here, where you just tap it in and it'll look, hopefully, it'll look nice and exciting and stylish. We'll still have that little bit of purple undertone and that kind of ghostly green effect. Let's go from there. All right. With that, it is 2:01, so it is time. So we did pretty good. We got a couple more things to finish up, but it won't take very long. We'll finish up the dragon on the chest, get that nice and glowing green. We'll probably do the green glow in his eyes too, and then we'll finish up the hands and the gauntlet. Go back, correct a couple of mistakes on the skin, and just give him an overall cleanup. But overall, I think he's looking really great. He is ready for the table. Number 10 to the Revengers of the Galaxy, ready to go. So, we'll clicky here. We'll do this. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had fun. I hope that you're looking forward to seeing Dallas's 10th pick. I know I'm excited to find out what it is on Tuesday. Of course, we'll be back for more streaming action tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific, Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific with Dallas Kemp, and then Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific with John Schaefer. Until then, be good to each other, stay safe, stay beautiful, and we will see you on the next one. Goodbye.